Dungeon Masters, you should kill your party. After all, what have they done for you recently? You spent ages handcrafting this world and story for them to play in, and all they've done is start a tavern brawl, spend 30 minutes trying to open an unlocked door, and adopt that random goblin NPC you named Blurble. Wouldn't it just be easier to drop a CR30 Tarrasque on them and call it a day? But that would be narratively unsatisfying. So how about I teach you a better way? A better way to TPK. For the uninitiated, TPK stands for Total Party Kill, which, as the name implies, means that an entire D&D party has unfortunately met their demise. May the RNG gods have mercy on their souls. Usually a TPK happens on accident. Either the party rolls poorly, the DM forgets to balance the fights, or the players just get cocky and decide they can take on the final boss at level 3.
As I was saying.
There are very few DMs who would kill their entire party on purpose, and that's because it's wrong. I don't care what your reasoning is, don't murder your players! It's not narratively satisfying for you to lead this group of adventurers through their entire journey, only for them to be thrown into a fight they can't possibly win because they made that one joke about your mother.
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries!
That being said, is there a way to make a total party kill satisfying for the players? I think so. In fact, I think there are many ways to spin death into a positive experience for a D&D table. And that's because here at Son of a Lich, we're optimists. We don't see death as the end. To us, death is a new beginning. A horribly painful new beginning, but a new beginning nonetheless.
I get it. It's all punishment.
Everyone loves a good ghost story. Poltergeist, Five Nights at Freddy's, Casper the Friendly Ghost, they're all classics. So why not turn your D&D campaign into a ghost story by taking it beyond the bounds of the mortal realm? Maybe your players encounter the final boss early, but are hopelessly outmatched. They end up getting killed in a fight they were never meant to win, but that's not the end for them. They become wandering spirits with unfinished business, and now they need to figure out how to utilize their new ghostly abilities so they can stop the big bad evil guy before he can enact his devious plot. I think this could be loads of fun for any D&D group and pretty easy to put together. You could simply take any of the features from the ghost stat block, like incorporeal movement or possession, and just slap them onto your players like that sticky note full of chores that you keep putting off. And from there, it's up to your players to decide how they want to progress. They could accept their fate and attempt to take on the BBEG as ghosts, or they could spend their time trying to look for a way to return to their mortal forms. But maybe you don't like the idea of running a campaign full of wandering spirits. Maybe you fear that giving your players free access to the 7th level spell Etherealness is too busted. Well, worry not, for there's another direction we can take this concept. Straight to hell. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be hell. You could take your players to Elysium instead, but it's the same story either way. The party is killed by the big bad, and they now have to fight their way through the various levels of the hells to return to the material plane so they can get their revenge. Wait, isn't that just Doom? The hells have always been an interesting aspect of D&D, at least for me. And I think that a campaign centered around escaping them would go insanely hard. That being said, I think this concept is infinitely more interesting if we flip it on its head and make the setting Elysium instead. Elysium has multiple levels, just like the Hells, but it's a good aligned plane, so it's more equivalent to heaven. And a D&D party trying to escape Elysium to return to the material plane provides so much more narrative intrigue than it does for the Hells. Maybe Elysium is a corrupt paradise. Maybe the Celestials that live there can't allow you to leave because it would upset the balance of life and death. There is so much more that you can do with this concept, and as an added bonus, your campaign won't be compared to Doom. Hey, if it works for the isekai genre, then why wouldn't it work for your D&D campaign? After all, who wouldn't want to die and be reborn as the hero? Or a slime. Or a spider. Or a... Wait, is that a vending machine? Okay, so maybe don't isekai your party, though an isekai campaign would make for interesting content. No, focus. I'm talking about Reincarnation. Reincarnating your party after a TPK can make for a great narrative depending on how it's done. But how do you do it? Despite being a pretty cut-and-dry concept, Reincarnation has a lot of minutia that changes the way a character interacts with the story. Does the party have no memory of their past life? No, that would be the equivalent of starting a new campaign. Can the party call upon the skills and experiences of their past life, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Maybe. But I was thinking something more along the lines of this. When the party inevitably gets TPK'd, you end the session by telling them that they are each reborn as a baby with memories of their time as a hero. From there, you ask your players to create new lower-level characters as you time-skip years ahead to their adulthood. But wait, the big bad has been rampaging unimpeded for decades now. The world has changed. The party knows their quest, but now they have to complete it in a world that has suffered the consequences of their failure. Maybe the people now scorn the heroes they once were. Maybe the world is now locked in a devastating war. They know that their failure is what caused the world to become what it is today, and they can either choose to make up for their past defeat, or reject the role they once had and forge a new path forward. But maybe you don't want to force your players to be reborn as completely new characters. That's okay, because you can still explore the consequences of them dying to the BBEG without asking them to start over. D&D has plenty of spells that can bring people back from the dead. Granted, a lot of them have time restrictions, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Instead of reincarnating your players, you can have a cleric NPC collect their bodies and go through a lengthy process of reviving them to fight the big bad once more. Perhaps this cleric is one of the few people who still believes in the party after their defeat. Or maybe this cleric has a grudge against the party and brought them back out of spite to finish what they started. It's really up to you. But this way you can still explore a narrative where the party lost, as well as a setting that's already dominated by the big bad evil guy. But if you're still not into that idea, then I have one more way that you can TPK your party. Yeah, just don't. If you really want to drop a CR30 Tarrasque on your party, then there are ways to go about it without killing them. For example, you could drop the Tarrasque on them in the very first session and have the rest of the campaign focus on evacuating cities and bringing warring countries together to take down this CR30 monstrosity. Alternatively, the BBEG can encounter the party early and spend the rest of the campaign hunting them down, forcing them to stay on the move. The fact of the matter is that if you TPK the party, they won't feel the lasting fear that they would from surviving an encounter with a powerful creature. So don't start an encounter with the intent of killing your players, instead go into it with the intent of forcing them to flee. It'll create for a much more intriguing story, especially if there are lasting consequences to fleeing from that particular encounter. But do you see what I mean? Death doesn't have to be the end. With the right attitude, it can lead to a better narrative experience for your table. So the next time you TPK your party, whether it be accidental or on purpose, you can use what you learned here to keep your campaign going. But even if you don't TPK your players, you can still LCS to this channel. That means like, comment, and subscribe. It shows us that you enjoy this content and you want to see more like it. But that's all for now. I hope you have a great time killing your party. Can we get a level up?